Well, it's Sunday before the Princeton swap, and I want to keep working on Walnuts. What am I going to work on? I could think of a couple things. Well, it's a Sunday before Princeton, and I want to make some progress on Walnuts. So, assuming I get a track there, I'm going to want to get that in right away. So, I guess that means I'm going to recondition the skid today and also take a good look at the chain case. So, first step on both of them, I'm going to pressure wash. So, I won't bore you with too much of that, but here goes. I'm going to say the degreaser helped a lot, and the pressure washer certainly did its job. Still kind of stained up. I may paint it, I may not paint it. We'll see. The skid looks absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to let these two things dry in the sun for a little bit, and then I'll probably start the reconditioning process, which is really just changing a lot of bearings. Well, now that the pressure washing's done, I'm going to give it a quick evaluation, find out what else I need to do. So let's check some wheels. That one's pretty good. That one's good. That one's good. That one is, that one's locked up. That one's good. That one's good. That one's good. That one's good. What else? That one's getting the bearing. I can hear the balls and the bearing clicking. And then these two uppers, pretty good. So, seems like I only got to do 2 bearings on the skid and then grease everything up. So that'll be good. The chain case, well, it's pretty clean, but I'd like it to look shiny and new. So stick around, show you a secret on that. Here's one thing I want to show you. It seems like whenever I find a skid like this in the swap meet, this little end is missing. If you would just take your bolt that, was holding the skid to the tunnel and put it on there, you wouldn't lose that little piece, and people wouldn't have to make a new one. So just finger thread them in both sides. Oh, shaft turns good, or shaft slides good, so life is good here. How about this front shaft? Oh, we're going to have to get out a little hammer and tap on that to see if it moves. All right, so I got a bolt in this front shaft here, just something to tap on. Oh, she's not stuck, but I'd say it's going to need to come out and get the dried up grease cleaned off it because it's just not slipping the way it should slip. All right, let's do this super stuck wheel. 3/4 inch socket. Blast her right off. So, you got a washer to the inside. You got a washer to the outside, remember that. And then you got the steel spacer in the plastic. You guys have all seen Lonnie replace bearings and take this stuff apart about 100 times. So I'm just going to get her done real quick. All right, let's knock this shaft out. I don't think it's bent. I think it's just dried up grease. But we'll find out. Perfect. Yeah, right there. Nasty. That's what was making it seize in. Really, both ends. Let me get some brake cleaner. All right. Let that sit and soak for a second, and I'll get the bore snake to do the tube. Well, my bore snake for cleaning out the tube has disappeared. I'm sure it's in the shop somewhere, but let's make a new one. It's not exactly difficult. There we go. Needed to help it a little that first time. There we go. Yeah, we got some grease out of there. My good old can of grease. Paintbrush action. Oh boy. Good stuff there. All right, well, let's see if the Zerks take grease. I hope they do. Well, that one is. And she's coming out both ends. All right. And the last one. The last one with the 3 wheels on the back. The wheels are right in the way. So guess I'll bust this bolt back off this shaft here and just slip the wheel over. There we go. All lubed up. That last one actually pushed out a little water from the pressure washing, but that's fine. Better out than in. So while I was messing around, I noticed something. The patch on this bolt is, well, it's still blue, but it ain't very patchy. I can thread right past it with my fingers. So still have a couple fresh patch bolts. You can get these from your Polaris dealer. If you're getting tired of these back wheels falling off, fresh patch bolts is the answer. Chain case time. I think I want to take this thing to the next step for cleaning. So I'm just going to blow it apart right now. So I guess I'm going to take this out and pressure wash it a bit more. Get it really clean inside and out because this is filthy. Inside anyways. All right, there's one thing I want to show you before I take this outside. It's how to get this fork assembly off. I know that's kind of a mystery sometimes. So work it all the way over towards the shifter. And then there's just an E-ring in there. Just grab a pick and hook that E-ring and take it out. Super easy. Come here, E-ring. So there you go. Then that fork is just splined into the shaft here. Yeah, you will have to figure out how to get it back together properly when you're done, but you know, it's nice to have it out for cleaning. So I'm fitting my Fox shocks that I got at Princeton up on Walnuts. They've been rebuilt already. Running into a little issue. right here interferes. I can't get the bolt to line up right there. So I'm actually going to have to notch that out in order to get these shocks on. I'll bring you back when I'm done. Alright, I'll show you the butchery while the paint's drying. It's not really butchered too bad. So I cut out this notch, obviously, and what isn't so obvious is I trimmed up both these edges. Maybe it is obvious because they're freshly painted and the paint's drying. I don't think this is going to give any strength problems because on later sleds, it's not even tied together. This piece is two separate pieces. And here's the reason why. The original shock, that little bracket tucked right down in there. This is smaller diameter, and there's nowhere for it to tuck on the Fox shock. So that's why I had to do a little modification on the skid, but I think the gas shocks are more than worth it. Well, the modifications aren't done. You can see even the stock shock has made contact with the bracket there. My travel is pretty limited on the angularity, so I marked it out. I got a notch each side in order to make that fly. Alright, well, you can see the notches by the fresh metal, and it looks like they're going to work because the body of the shock comes up and hits the shaft. I don't know. Hopefully it's going to be fine. Looks like the shock's standing up at plenty good of an angle, so I think it'll be fine. Well, I got my skid together with the Fox shocks, and I think the next step is to start assembling Walnuts. But first, let me give you a look at the skid. So, here's your basic rear gas shock, and the front, as you can see, I had to put the gas fill down for clearance, but it fits. I had to run it in this front set of holes as well. Just no way with this big body cap down here that you can get it into that back set of holes. But small compromise to make for good quality gas shocks. Well, it's Labor Day, and I think I want to get the sled back to roller status. You just saw me recondition the skid, and I got a bunch of parts ready to go in. Let's get after this thing. Alright, so a couple things I want to show you here. First, I took a little shop roll, basically some sandpaper, and sanded the rust off the shaft, mainly to get the set screw mark knocked down. I had to cut the old inner race and the old locking collar off and go to the press to get that off. So I just cleaned up the rust so it won't fight me when I'm putting the new one on. Same thing on the jack shaft, just knocking off wherever that set screw mark was. No big deal there. Now the next thing I want to show you, if I can keep my jack shaft from rolling away, is on these bearings. So you got these little holes in the groove there on the bearing, and those are for adding grease, and that's how the grease gets in if you got greasable flanges. And so if I can get this lined up properly with the hole, come on, I'll wipe this off and I'll be right back. Alright, back here looking at the little hole there. I think there's maybe even a couple of them. We'll try this guy. We'll get that tip lined up right in there. There, it's taking grease. So that was my bad before. And you can see I actually got grease coming out the far side. A little bit. But I'm packing that bearing up because wherever there's grease, so there I got a little shooting out the seals. Wherever there's grease, there can't be water. Can't help but make it last longer. Alright, assembly time. So, nice luxury today compared to our usual triples. We got a two-wheel drive shaft. That means I can get the chain case in first. But of course, before the chain case can go in, I have to put in the jack shaft. And because I'm using the old style chain case, the side loader, I got to dig up a brake caliper. So I'll be right back. So here's our caliper that came off the Walnuts, and it's what we call the side loader style, meaning you got to slide the chain case in sideways, as opposed to the top loader caliper drops in from the top. If you ever got to change the pads on these, it's pretty easy. You got these little clips right here. Unclip those clips, slide the pins out, change the pads, put the pins back in, put the clips back on. Look at this hose. This did have like a black covering on it at the start of this project. It's just all fallen off. Garbage. Well, we got a new hose coming anyways. Alright, so let's get this thing in there. Get on there. There we go. Alright. Next up is the chain case. And this is that reverse chain case that I bought at Princeton. That's why we're using the old school parts and why there's no dipstick. I'm just going to have to go old school, but this chain case is, you know, more correct for this sled than a top loader. Not that I really care about correctness, but, you know, what the hell. All right, so we got the pilot in the tunnel, and we just start bolting her up. I'm going to blow this all apart again. You know what I forgot to do? I still got this dent in the belly pan I'm going to push out. It's always something. All right, set up in here with the good old Porta Power. Got it centered on the dent. Ooh. There we go. Now, of course, there's a little kink there on the dent. Trying to be very careful to not hit this reflector and give it a little more because it's just about perfect right there. All right, let's let her go. Let's see what it comes back to. Oh boy, that is a lot better. Let me give you this view down the rail there. Think I'm pretty happy with that. I may have actually pushed it maybe just a little far. No, pretty good. I might bang on this a little bit just to knock it in. We'll see how the hood fits. We'll save any future adjustments for hood fit up time. But I'm pretty happy with that. Glad I remembered before I got it all together. Check-in point on Walnuts. Chain case is bolted in, jack shaft's bolted up. How nice is it to be able to get to that really horrible nut inside the tunnel without the track on? You know, because it's only a 2-driver drive shaft, it could come in later. I don't know, I'm pretty happy about that. Belly pan straight, things are looking good. Next, I'm going to slide in that super minty lightning bolt I got at Princeton. Moving right along at Walnuts. It's lunchtime. Walnuts is a roller. Really didn't spend that much time getting it together. I don't have anything else to do today. I think I'm going to keep assembling it. All right, well, it's time to build up a reverse chain case. Here you see all the guts. So we'll get after the guts first, and then we'll come back with the cover once that's together. All right, so the first step on any chain case is to make sure your gears are aligned. So, got the mandatory spacer up there for the 13-tooth top. Well, 13 spline, I should say, on the shaft. Don't even count the teeth. Get that on. Now, for the bottom on a reverse gear, you got to start with this washer. Every reverse gear needs that. Every reverse chain case needs that. All right. Then you put on the gear. When you put the gear on, this cone side goes out. Dogs go to the other gear so you can shift. Then you need this spline collar. Because without that spline collar, I don't know what you're checking. It might be easier to do the spline collar into the gear first. Definitely easier if you're not working with hoses. All right, so that bottom gear just spins free. And that is correct. And our alignment is good. Right off the bat, the alignment's good. So I'm pretty happy with that. So I guess we're going to start putting things together. Next thing will be the chain and the idlers. So got to put a washer in. Then I like to get my idlers together first. Although there will be some finagling. I'll just go with the inner one for now. There'll be some finagling to get that around the chain. Here's our chain. So this sled didn't originally come with the reverse, so these hoses are, generally speaking, not formed very well to fit with the reverse. Well, this is sweet. You see why it won't go together? It's a 13 wide idler. It's an 11 wide chain. The broken one is an 11 wide. We can't use that, obviously. Let's check these gears. Top gear is an 11 wide. What's the bottom? The bottom is 11 wide. So I'm kind of screwed for now. Crap. Found what I needed. Unfortunately, I'm cannibalizing that other chain case that Lonnie gave me. But I want to get this thing together today, and then I guess I'll just be on the hunt for an 11 wide idler for a reverse case. So, spacer behind the top gear, possibly shims if you need them for alignment. Washer behind this idler, washer behind the bottom gear, and we got the spline gear on there. That's actually a long ways down the road. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is throw the tensioner in, just so we can kind of keep the top and bottom coupled together better. Alright, everybody's favorite, the spring. Get some Loctite on there because this was a patch bolt at one point, and I don't have a replacement patch bolt for it. Here's what I'm doing today. Actually, I don't even need that extension. I'm just doing a shallow socket. Got it. That easy. That was the first try. I won't even edit out fumbling taking off the extension. So that is nearly it for the reverse chain case. I guess I got to do a washer up top, and I got a new patch bolt with that, just because I don't want that to come off. The patch bolt is 7517979. We'll tension the chain, and then it's just a matter of putting the cover on. So tension the chain. I always wiggle it back and forth, finger tight, and then one flat. And that is enough slack. They don't need a lot of slack. You give them too much slack, they're going to rub on that wear plate in there. Well, I got the chain case together. Glad I kept going. It was a bit of work. So, because this is not a top loader, there is no dipstick. This is where you fill it now. And you'll notice even later wedge chain cases, even top loader reverse cases, still have this fill plug, and they still have this plug at the bottom that that's a well nut, and a screw goes in it exactly like an old TX, exactly like any 80s chain case. So basically, you fill it up until it comes out here on an old chain case. So that's what I'm doing next. So here's the aftermath. After you fill it, stick a rag under there and let it drain down so it's not overfilled. When it quits dripping, put your plugs back in. All right, reverse is assembled. I think it works. I have no reason to believe it wouldn't. I just don't have a secondary clutch on it to even turn at the moment. But I'll show you how it came out. Yep, looks like a reverse chain case. Got the shifter up here, and when I shift it, well, it shifts. So I'm expecting that to be fine. I mean, I already filled it. I wouldn't fill it if I didn't think it was fine. So guess I'll keep moving on the project. Well, I decided the next thing I'm going to do is rebuild the brake master cylinder. I'll get the brake line on after that, and that way, hopefully I don't end up dripping any brake fluid on the seat cover or gas tank cover or anything like that. Just get that whole brake system done right now. So the brake master is pretty easy to rebuild. We're going to start by pulling out that bolt. The handle comes off and the piston comes out. I'm supposed to take the cover off too and see what it looks like inside. Hopefully it's pretty clean. Well, I decided the next thing I'm going to do is rebuild the brake master cylinder. I'll get the brake line on after that, and that way, hopefully I don't end up dripping any brake fluid on the seat cover or gas tank cover or anything like that. Just get that whole brake system done right now. So the brake master is pretty easy to rebuild. We're going to start by pulling out that bolt. The handle comes off and the piston comes out. I'm supposed to take the cover off too and see what it looks like inside. Hopefully it's pretty clean. Alright, well, I just had a frustrating half an hour. On the old school master cylinders, you can just put on the O-ring and the U-packing and just slip it together, and you don't need any special tools. Well, you still just put on your U-packing, and where's my O-ring? Guess better safe. Here's my brand new O-ring, and I'll give you the part numbers for these, although you could buy kits for this at Dennis Kirk or anywhere really. But the U-packing, which is the real seal, is 5410164, and the O-ring is 5410163. Sequential. Amazing. So here's what I learned. Back in the old days, on the older master cylinders, a guy could just slip this in, wiggle it around, it'll go in. It absolutely won't on this style. This style has this dust seal. That's why it had to be tapped to come apart. So on this style, you need a special tool. And I had to go and look at the service manual. And the service manual doesn't give you a picture of the tool, but I decided it had to look like this. So this outside is just turned down to just fit in. It's got a step because there's a step in there where the seal goes. And then the inside is just drilled with a 3/4 inch drill bit. So let's put this thing together. I did a dry run already, and it worked. It worked really good. So when you put in your seal, you do want to have a little bit of fluid on her. That's wet enough. Maybe on the O-ring too, just wipe it on there quick. Transfer a little. So here's how it goes. First, you got this washer piece. Just drop it in. Now's where it gets tricky. Now your seal, the end that I turned a step on, that's got to be the first end in, and you back it in. You have to back it in. So there, I'm compressing the O-ring. Doesn't feel quite right. Well, she's going. And there, I've got the seal compressed. All right, now you need your spring. Put it up this way, engage everything, and it just goes. Just light finger pressure. And there's that. That's that. So one more thing, the factory are going to reuse this seal, and the factory says use the same tool to install the seal. That was my clue about what could this tool be. Well, if you're using the same tool, I think it's probably something pretty sturdy, like a piece of aluminum turned to size. So that's that. I mean, that's really the gist of rebuilding it. Let's see. Except for I got my spring out of place, so now it won't go. So, oh, my washer's turned. So we'll just reverse the steps. You just tap it apart. right? Here's that washer again. Get in there. Spring, you got your seal. So you're getting a twofer here. O-ring goes right in. Seal goes right in. All right. So that washer stood up on end on me last time. So I gotta kind of finesse this a little. All right. We're good this time. She's compressing. So now here's this silly seal that the older master cylinders never had. That's it. And now, rebuilt and full travel. So that's it. That's the gist of rebuilding the brake master cylinder. I mean, we're going to put the handle back on and put it together, but I just showed you the hard part. And the real hard part is find this tool. I'm sure it comes in some kit somewhere. Hell, maybe you can buy it from Kirk. I don't know. I wanted to do this today, so I made my own real quick. All right, here's some more joy. The caliper end is bigger. There were some adapters and some fittings in there, but I don't know if the lighting's very good. That's a 3/8 24 inverted. There's a little cone in there for the inverted. And this is something else. What is this? So, luckily, I keep this around for automotive emergencies, but it's coming in handy today. So this came out of this slot. So, 1/4 inch tube, 7/16 24 inverted to 3/8 24 inverted. I got one more left. So if you're trying to do this and you're going to the auto parts store, well, I don't guarantee that that's what you need, but it's a good guess. All right, I'm going to call that a wrap for Walnuts Part 4. This has been a great episode. You guys have seen I'm not just doing a bolt together. I had a little bit of customization on the skid to get the Fox shocks to work. Had some messing around with that chain case. Had to do an adapter for the brakes to get that to work. You know, just a bunch of stuff. Coolant hoses, I had to cut them. I'll have to lengthen them. No big deal. I got good brass hose barbs that don't get soft when they get hot. And we'll just add in some length of coolant hose. So, you know, it's a little bit of a custom sled. It's not a full-blown custom. But anytime you do anything that's not straight stock, you got to count on, you know, some adventures. And speaking of adventures, that brake master cylinder was certainly an adventure. I've rebuilt a ton of them, and I've never had one fight me. It's just this style of the master cylinder with that dust seal needs that tool in order to get the little piston in. So, I don't know. It worked. I learned. I made a tool. It's great. Sorry, I'm not making the tool for you. I'm sure you can buy it somewhere. I did it for myself because it was an emergency. If I had a little more lead time, I would have bought it. So, anyways, well, emergency. I want to keep the project going. So anyways, huge thanks to the patrons. You guys are the best. Patrons support this channel every month, and in return, they get early access to all the videos. Sometimes there's private patron-only videos that only they see. They can be pretty darn funny. Stuff that's maybe not fit for YouTube sometimes. You know, but I think the big thing is the early access. And they support us for beer and pizza, for keeping the projects going. And speaking of beer and pizza, hopefully Dennis and Lonnie will be back next time. I think their travels are done. Thanks to everybody else that supported us, especially at the Princeton swap, Wes with the gas tank, what else? Taylor with the TXL motor, Rob with the shocks, Swap Hauler Brian with the beers, which we used right away, and Alan with the donation to the Beer and Pizza Fund. Alan from Vermont. Thanks, man. So, thanks to you guys, and we'll see you at the swap meets.